Welcome back to the Finding Strength podcast, where Brindy learns to do hard things. Just kidding.
She does. Matt learns to do hard things too. We're shooting from the hip, folks.
We're shooting from the hip today. No, just kidding. No, today we're going to actually talk about a really fun topic.
Yes.
One that I didn't want to do, and then I did it, and now I love it. The Finding Strength method. Do you want to tell us what the Finding Strength method is, Matt?
So people are always asking, Matt, what is your therapy stuff? What do I do? They are all the time, dude. We're freaking flying in an airplane. All of a sudden, oh, you're a therapist? Blah, 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 blah. And all my therapist friends will relate to this. We talk about this all the time. And so a while ago, I came up with this idea of making like a method out of what I teach and kind of like my not really my style, but really the methodology that I use. And because it's important that a therapist, clinician, person, whatever, coach, helper, human being,
Guru.
whatever you want to call
You love gurus.
teacher.
Just kidding. I'm kidding.
I don't love gurus. Shame. It's important that you have an established methodology.
Yeah.
And you're not just shooting from the hip like we are on this podcast. But well, that's why I know I can talk about this for hours. But so the intention of this episode is to kind of break that down a little bit and help people understand what it is that Finding Strength does and the method that I have used in therapy for quite some time and the method that Brindy uses when she does coaching and how I incorporate that into groups as well, how that gets incorporated into a lot of the speaking that happens when we go and do speaking gigs and things like that. And for those of you who are going to attend the event, this is going to be a big part of the Finding Strength 1090 joint event. A lot of what I share on stages comes from the method that I use in therapy because basically I kind of describe, there's a little facetiousness in this thing, but like my clientele are kind of like this experimental learning lab where we get to kind of try new things as well as things that are tested. Mm-hmm. And the stuff that works sticks. And I'm always trying stuff on myself first. Mm-hmm. And I'll suggest things to people and be like, hey, I learned about this recently. I really like it. I've been doing it for a while. Would you like to try this? Would you want to give this a try? And give me your feedback on if you think it works. And a lot of times, because I've been working with people for, months and months and months or whatever, I give them these ideas and they're like, yeah, sure, I'll try it. And there's stuff that's just stuck around over the years. And so I took all that and kind of crammed it into this Finding Strength method that I use. And I stick to that pretty closely these days. Yeah. And it gets really amazing results.
Well, and what I think I like about it is like we already have our routine that we do throughout the day, and we're running from the subconscious. So what I like about this is once I got used to this method and had to work hard for it, but it kind of now runs off my subconscious instead of my conscious, and it's a good, healthy routine. It's not this routine that's causing me like anxiety or anything and stuff like that. So,
well, and the thing that you're referring to is the morning routine and the evening routine that end up becoming like a prescribed element of the Finding Strength method. Yeah. Because I guess the best way to break it down would be to break it down into what I'm going to use to explain the Finding Strength method, because it's kind of foundational, are the four. They're called the 4 principles of Stoicism, the 4 virtues of Stoicism. And if people aren't familiar with Stoicism, it's this more or less an idea, a way of thinking, a way of behaving that is rooted in this very fundamental principle of just being good and doing good. Mm-hmm. And whatever I do, I am doing it because I am doing good. And I'm going to bring good to the world.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure also Stoicism is like changing your thinking patterns to positivity, correct?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Rather than focusing on the negative, more focusing on the positive or the outcome making the outcome be a positive.
Well, within Stoicism, and this is a part of a lot of the stuff that I teach and things like that I found works, at least within Stoicism, along the lines of thinking, is the concept of being able to control or observe or change your own behavior and thinking patterns through a process of deliberate awareness. You're constantly evaluating what is and is not effective for you,
Yeah.
and it's very intentional.
And it's very individualized.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, meaning,
Yeah.
what do you mean it's very individualized?
It's very individualized to me because what works for you might not work for me, might not work for, Ryan and stuff like that. So it's very personal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's a kind of a 12-step-y thing, like
Okay.
take what's best and leave the rest.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's a big part of the method as well, is like, here's all this stuff that works in general for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Try as much of it as you can, and then take what's best and
for
leave
you.
the rest.
But always take the cold.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Can't help it.
I
She
just
can't
know
help
there's
it.
so many people who are like,
She talks about the cold more than I do these days.
I'm like, yes, you can. Everyone should take the cold, unless you have medical issues, okay? But,
Sure.
well, do you want to name all of them, and then we'll kind of like break it down?
So sure, the 4 virtues of Stoicism, the one that I just, the do good one or whatever, it is the principle or the virtue of justice.
Okay.
Which is an interesting way.
That is funny.
Yeah, right. Because justice, you usually think of like fairness. And
That's what I totally was thinking of. So break
But
it
it's
down to what you think.
It's being just with oneself and with the world around you, and bringing goodness, fairness, justice, compassion, non-judgmentalness, right? Respect for yourself and for others. That is a founding principle of the Finding Strength method of Stoicism. Is we want to do good. We want to make the world a better place. Every time you step into a room, that room is better because you are there.
Yep.
That's kind of the we is greater than me thing. And this we is greater than me is a major, major, major foundational principle of the way that I see the world, the way that we
The Finding Strength
teach.
method.
And it
It's
just
a
shows up
huge
all the
thing.
time.
Yeah. We use it a lot in therapy. And
You are
coaching.
here to be of service.
Yeah.
You are here to make the world a better place.
Contribute.
Contribute.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that
Create.
within the Stoic philosophy, they call that justice, and bringing a compassionate kind of like a compassionate element to the view of justice is how I do that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my own little spin on the idea of the virtue of justice according to Stoicism.
Well, and what really helped me with this principle was through a book that I read, Mastery of Self.
Yeah.
And
Don Miguel Ruiz. Great
yeah.
stuff.
And I remember reading the part that stood out to me a lot was talking about, people that we struggle with or have relationships with that, things happened in the past and stuff like that. And there's this resentment towards these people. And earlier in the book, it talks about, like self-love and giving yourself, like we all change. We all make changes and we evolve and we have to learn to love ourselves. So why wouldn't we also give that to other people that we struggle with? And every time we see them again and they come into our lives, why wouldn't we give them that same chance? And they're a new person. They've evolved. They're not that same person that hurt you many years ago. Give them the chance of showing up that day. And so that really helped me with the justice part of like, okay, just like I give myself that love and that, what's the word I'm thinking of? Forgiveness, I guess.
Compassion.
Compassion. Yeah.
You're talking about
compassion. I'm talking about,
self-compassion.
self-compassion.
Give myself grace.
I should also give that person grace and compassion and move forward from this experience rather than all the other experience I've had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so wise, which is the other principle
Oh, is that the
of
next?
Stoicism.
Yeah.
Virtue of Stoicism, number 2, is wisdom.
Yeah.
And the way that I've incorporated that into the Finding Strength method is for a long time, I've ended up in positions of leadership. And very early on, as I was being mentored to become a leader, one of the things that stuck with me is leaders are readers. And for me, this is the principle of standing on the shoulders of giants. There is a wealth of knowledge available to you right now at your fingertips in this day and age.
It's true. Yeah.
And you should be reading.
Yeah.
You should be learning. You should be gaining wisdom, sharing that wisdom with people around you. The reason why hopefully somebody comes into the office and wants to do therapy is because they want to learn.
Yeah.
And what I don't know, I don't know.
Yeah. It's that simple.
And
That's
I
true.
don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
So I've got to find out what it is that I don't know. That's
Yeah.
what learning is. That's what research is. You're going to go out into the world and you're in this we're all in this incredibly beautiful, amazing lab where we're constantly learning about this thing called reality and how that applies to me and how that applies to you and how that applies to your family and to the people around you. And we have this moral obligation to use that wisdom, to gain more wisdom and to share it with the world. And I think that's a really important principle when it comes to the therapy thing. Because most people start off going into therapy thinking like, I'm broken, there's something wrong, I need to fix me. And when you really begin to understand there's nothing wrong, you just lack some awareness. You just got to learn some stuff and apply it. And people are like, oh, wow, that's really simple.
Well, and I think that, like how you said, we just have to learn some stuff. And I think what it is for me, I will speak for myself, what I learned was the things that I was feeling and the emotions that I was going through, they were trying to teach me something, but I didn't have the awareness at the time to know that these emotions and like feelings that I were going through were trying to teach me something and make me aware of something.
I have to be open to that.
And I had to be open to that. And I feel like once I got open to that idea that like, you know, my anxiety was trying to teach me something, and then I was able to stop and listen and figure out what that was, I kind of gained this relationship with it to where it even was teaching me more.
What have you learned from your anxiety?
One, I learned that it's there to try and keep me safe.
To protect her.
To protect me, yeah. I've also learned that it can help me make decisions on if I should be doing something or not. I've also learned that sometimes it's not helping me, and that I do have to push through it, the self has to show the anxiety that we can do this and that we don't have to be scared.
How do we differentiate between anxiety that is helpful and anxiety that is trying to keep us from moving forward?
Trial and error, experience, pushing yourself to do uncomfortable things. If I feel like Brindy a couple years ago would stay in the comfort zone. Anything that kept me comfortable and kept my anxiety like at ease, I would stay there. But I also wasn't happy with who I was because I wasn't brave. I wasn't doing hard things.
What a paradox.
Right?
I want to stay as comfortable as possible, but I'm also extremely unhappy with where I'm at. So I don't want to change anything because I'm afraid that I might become uncomfortable.
Yep.
Yet
but I am uncomfortable
I'm already
because I'm not okay with who I am.
Such a weird conundrum, a conflict that we end up in all the time. Yeah.
But I didn't have that awareness that that's what it was.
There it is, wisdom.
And so I had to learn.
Knowledge.
Yeah. And once I started reading, that was a big thing, learning, which I was never really a reader. I didn't like to read. Even in high school, I was never a reader. And so it was hard for me to get through a book. And at the time, I didn't know that I was, ADD. So I would read and then I'd think of something and then I'm like, crap, what did I just read? Because I was just thinking about the story in my head and then I had to go back and read. So reading was really hard for me. it would take me months to get through one book because I really wanted to read it and understand it, but I had so many things going on. And so I've gotten to a point where now I love reading or listening to podcasts and I can focus because I practice it and do it all the time. And then I learned from the repetitiveness of doing things over and over, something clicked to where it was like, okay, so if I keep continuing putting myself in hard situations, I'm going to keep learning. Or if I keep reading, and if I have to read the paragraph 5 times, eventually I'm going to get to the point where I only have to read the paragraph 1 time.
Yeah.
So,
which leads us into the principle of discipline, the virtue of discipline.
Discipline, man. That's what I'm working on this year.
It is the never-ending struggle, the plight of the human. Discipline.
And just the word discipline kind of like gives me like...
Because there's a negative connotation to discipline, right? The dark side of discipline is the disciplinary action that you received at the hands of authority figures, right?
Yeah.
Like I was disciplined. And so because you're undisciplined, now I'm going to discipline you. And that feels like punishment. And this is a huge barrier that people have to get over, that I found as I talk to people about discipline, is there is this dark side to it where it's like, well, I now disciplined means I need to beat myself into submission. I need to force myself to do these things that I don't want to do. And if I don't do them good enough, I need to punish myself. Mm-hmm. That's not what this is.
No. And then when I think of discipline and what gives me like the gurgle guts and like kind of make me sick is I have this belief that, not being good enough and failing. And so it's like, okay, I want to be disciplined, but okay, now I'm going in to be disciplined, but what if I fail at it? And I can't stay on top of being disciplined. And so that's where like discipline's been my thing this year. And I'm trying to like work on it and know that I can show up. But there is this fear behind discipline for me that I create this schedule for myself. And then if I can't uphold it, then I feel like I'm a failure. But if I get back at it and stay on top of it, I don't know. I feel like discipline, like you said, I think discipline is one that I will constantly be working on. Always.
Me too.
Yeah. Which is not a bad thing. And that's what I've learned, that's not a bad thing, because if I do fail, then that just gives me a reason to get at it again and be like, okay, I failed. What can I learn from that? What was too much that I need to eliminate, and that what will work for me to stay disciplined? And so when you started doing your research on like morning routines and night routines, and I remember when you started implementing that with like a few clients, you started starting it and seeing the changes that you made with these people and yourself, because like Matt will also do the same thing that he's asking his clients to do.
I won't ask him to do something that I haven't done.
that you haven't done. That's true.
That won't happen.
And so when I started seeing your discipline and the things that you were doing and your routines in the morning, at night, and then noticing the changes in you, I was like, huh. Like,
what did you notice specifically that changed?
I mean, I would say for sure your attitude, just like your overall demeanor of like life. Like I guess, so like we'll talk about the morning routine. Like you were excited to wake up. You were excited to like start the day because you had this routine that you did and you stuck to it. And it was like, all right, I'm going to get at today. Like I get to wake up today and I get to do these things. And then your night routine, I remember watching you and I'm like, you are so weird. I'd be like sitting in bed and be like, can you just come get in bed now instead of doing all this stretching yoga stuff? And my favorite was when you did it naked. But
mine too.
Sad I missed that.
But I noticed that you would fall asleep so quickly. You did this routine where you'd fall asleep so quickly, and I would sit in bed and just like kind of like twiddle my thumbs and be like, "Oh my gosh, he's already asleep!" And
you've been in bed for 30 minutes
and
already.
I've been awake, sitting in bed watching you do all these things, and I'm like, "What is happening?" And then I started doing it with you. And then I started seeing the changes in me. And then I started seeing like even just the mental changes of like, you know, me and Ryan were talking about this, but like I got excited to wake up and like make my coffee in the morning after doing like my routine and stuff. Like it became more of a something that I valued. Like I cared about it more. I cared about myself more. I cared about, you know, and then I cared about, like, it helped me so much that I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do this with my clients. And then the biggest thing for me is I was like, I need to do this with my kids. And then that's when we made up their schedule and their morning routine. And then at the time, you know, they were in school. And so then when they came home from school, they had their afternoon routine. And then we wrote down like their bedtime routine. And one thing I've noticed from having discipline and sticking to our routines is that the whole house in the morning and at night, we're kind of on the same schedule, but we go to bed so good now. Our kids go to sleep so good now. Like it's not this. And then if we do go past like a certain bedtime, like Layla will come up to me now and be like, Mommy, I need to go to bed. Can you put me to bed? And I'm like, yes, I can. It is. It's past your, you know, like on the weekend or something. And I take care of myself better by having this strict morning routine and this bedtime routine. And I've noticed when I don't stick to it, there is a shift. I feel the shift. And then that's where I can be like, okay, I need to get back on this.
So true.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of this came from understanding neuroscience, which I didn't really have a very deep understanding of early in my career. That came later as I had mentors who were big into this and were like, hey, you should learn about this. And as I learned, a couple models or modalities of therapy that really were backed in a lot of neuroscience. And I began to understand like, oh, I love the brain, like the brain and what the inner workings of it and how it works in conjunction with the body and chemistry and all this stuff. And then I learned a couple of really simple things about the brain and body that just changed the way that I saw human beings.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the most simple understandings that ever came about was the idea of cortisol and how cortisol, a major stress hormone of the body, that levels of cortisol in the body directly affect mood. And if you have high levels of cortisol, you're more likely to be irritable, anxious, even depressed. If your cortisol timing is off, if your cortisol release is happening in the evening rather than in the morning, you're more likely to be irritable, anxious, depressed. And so I stopped looking at things through the lens of like, let's get a diagnostic criteria for these things and find the right diagnosis and treat them. Instead, I started going like, okay, well, what's the root cause to this issue? I wonder if it's a cortisol issue. I wonder if it's an adrenal issue. I wonder if that's linked to trauma. I wonder this, I wonder that. And so my assessment phase of therapy became, okay, what's going on in their daily lives? What do their habits look like? Rather than what does the past look like? Tell me about your traumas. That happens later. Now, early in the process of therapy, I say, what are your daily habits like? And 999 times out of 1,000, people's daily habits were shit.
Yeah. Well, and they weren't the same. They didn't have a
Absolute.
routine. Yeah.
There was no deliberate action. And so I came up with this idea that is disciplined action with deliberate aim.
Yes.
And we asked the question, okay, what do you want? Aim. Where are you aiming? Where are you going? What is the thing that you desire? Most people will answer that question with, well, I don't want this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I know what I don't want, but I don't know what I do want.
At that moment, we have to say that does not answer the question. Knowing what you don't want means freaking nothing. You have to know what you want and why you want it. And then we can come up with a plan to get that thing that you want. Most people who come to therapy, you ask them that question, they say, I want to feel better. I want to sleep better.
Yeah, sleep I think is
Huge.
one of the number
Huge.
one things
Sleep
that people
has
say
become
when they come in. Yeah,
Sleep has become the number one assessment tool that I use for people in therapy. Is I'll ask them, "How's your sleep?"
Yeah,
and the majority of the time, people say my sleep is not good, and I say, "Okay, that will be our marker." Let's just improve your sleep. Try these things and see if this improves your sleep. And that's what the routines are. The sleep is kind of the measure, right? We're going to see if sleep's getting better. We're going to measure mood too. Like, are you less irritable, more irritable? Do you feel more anxious, less anxious? Are you happier to get up in the morning? Are you sad to get up in the morning? Like, what's your general mood state during the day? And let's evaluate that, get a baseline, and then let's see if we can do some stuff to make that a little bit better. And then I usually challenge people. I say, if you do these things, these very simple things, if you do them daily for 7 to 14 days, and you do them every single day, I promise you that you will see a very palpable change in your life. But these things that I'm going to ask you to do suck.
Yeah.
They're not fun. It's going to be uncomfortable, and that's the point. You have to do uncomfortable things on purpose with the aim of getting better, and you will get better.
Yeah.
Because what people are addicted to is comfort.
Yep.
I want to feel comfortable.
I want to feel comfortable.
And that is creating this anxious distress that we experience because I'm distressed that I won't feel comfortable.
Yes.
And so now my entire life revolves around let's just be comfortable. I want comfort foods. I want comfort this. I want my comfort blanket. I want my comfortable life. I want all these things. And then you ask the person, you say, well, are you
really comfortable?
happy?
Yeah. Are you happy?
No.
Yeah.
I'm miserable. Help me understand how that's comfortable.
But I think, so what I will answer for that is at the time when I did comfort, what it went down to was, okay, I may not be happy, but I'm safe. And that's where it was hard for me to get out of that safety zone of comfort.
Because what people confuse is safety with certainty.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Those two things are not the same.
No, they're not. You're right.
And so I have this idea in my head that if I keep doing the comfort thing, I'm going to remain safe.
Yep.
However, is that really true?
Hell no. I was
Because
dying inside.
We have to understand what safety really means.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to understand, am I talking about safety in the short term or am I talking about safety in the long term?
Mm-hmm.
And we could even pull in the idea of health, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just talk about health. Do you feel like if you are healthy, you are safer?
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm like, yes.
Definitely. There's a
Heck
direct
yes.
relationship. We call it a correlation between safety and health. The healthier I am, the safer I am. Think about it. If I'm in danger and I'm unhealthy, let's say that I am injured or super overweight or
Or
something
let's
like
bring
that.
up COVID.
Hold on.
Okay.
I'm unhealthy.
Yeah.
Right? And I now have this thing that's after me. Whatever it is. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be a freaking tiger. It could be a bear. It could be a freaking guy with a gun. It could be my boss. Could be an idea. Could be freaking a deadline. It's pursuing me.
Yeah.
And I got to freaking deal with this thing. If I'm unhealthy, I'm much less capable of dealing with that thing that's pursuing me than I am if I'm healthy.
100%.
And so now we
Yeah.
have to understand
I see
that,
what you're
like,
saying.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, health is more important than safety. So go back to certainty. Why then am I obsessed with this idea of certainty? Because your brain is pre-programmed to want to do the same things over and over and over and over and over. Because your brain has confused the idea of safety and certainty. And your brain believes that if you do the same things over and over, you are less likely to die. However, that is not true.
It's false.
You can't prevent that death thing
No.
unless you are what?
Healthy.
Healthy. And so health becomes the measure. Health becomes the marker. So let's do some things every single day to promote health. I want you to do them in the morning, and I want you to do them in the evening. They're simple, they're challenging, and they're effective. They will take in the neighborhood of an hour in the morning and 15 to 30 minutes at night. If you can do these things for 7 to 14 days, you will see a measurable change in your life. And the people who take me up on it, 100%.
Yeah.
100% of them come back and say,
Yep.
I'm different.
Yep.
And it takes, and this is why I think the Finding Sweet method has some momentum to it. Because after 1 hour of sitting down and talking and learning the Finding Sweet method, your life is now different.
Yes.
1 hour.
Yeah.
That's not easy to do.
No.
That's not easy to do. And that's how powerful these simple ideas are. So Did you have something else you want to say?
Well, no, I was thinking healthy, like with COVID, it mattered.
Oh,
Like
COVID,
how
yeah.
COVID came along and like
Sure.
the unhealthy people, some of them died, you know, like it. And as sad as that is, I mean, not every case was that, but,
A lot of them.
and when you say health, I mean, I think overall health, like mental, physical,
It's all
like
connected.
the food we eat, like working out, everything, it is all connected. And so it took me a long time to learn that though, because I wasn't educated. I didn't have the knowledge of it. And once I had the knowledge and started learning, it changes your life. And so it's important to learn things. I mean, you know, we're only here for so long.
Well, and we know a fraction
And
a fraction of a percentage
yeah.
of what is real and actual.
Yeah, it's true.
And the pursuit of understanding what is real and actual should be the aim of every human being.
Yeah.
Do I want to live in ignorance or do I want to understand reality?
And we all kind of, you know, we chase that feeling of joy and peace. And this routine, the morning and the night routine has literally changed that for me, where I don't feel as much discomfort anymore.
Right. So briefly, should we do morning first or evening first?
Probably morning.
Let's do morning.
Yeah.
So you wake up in the morning. The first thing you do, you pop out of bed, you drop on the floor, you do 10 push-ups, 20 push-ups, somewhere in that neighborhood. Boom.
Get that
first thing.
blood flow going.
Blood flow, oxygen to the
Release
body
that
immediately.
cortisol,
right?
yeah.
That is going to promote the flow of cortisol because you want your cortisol to release in the morning, not in the evening, because that'll affect your sleep. That's going to promote the flow of oxygen and stress the body just a tad bit. Go to the bathroom, do your thing. Now, this latest thing that I've incorporated, I've been telling all my clients to do that I absolutely love is I want you to drink a half a teaspoon of Celtic salt and a half of a lemon squeezed into a glass, fill that glass full of water, knock it back first thing in the morning, right? Now, this isn't just something that I just was like one day, this sounds like a good idea. I'm going to try this and see if it works. No, I'm stealing this, right? Like this is borrowed. Standing on the shoulders of giants. We talked about this before.
Yeah,
Wisdom.
we read about this.
We read about this.
Yeah.
I've seen this pop up
There's
in
research about
multiple
it. Yep.
places. Yes, because you want oxygen in the morning. You want to promote oxygen. You're low on electrolytes. And lemon is a very wonderful natural remedy that promotes gut health, mental clarity. I had no idea how important lemon was.
We've been doing it for how long? Like
Weeks and weeks and weeks now, months now.
I was gonna say like 2 months.
More than that, yeah.
Anyways, it's been a game changer.
I've told every new client that I've had,
on
they're
my gut
all
health.
doing it.
Oh,
Love it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, so super simple, right?
Yep.
Push-ups,
Yep.
lemon water, lemon salt water, breath work. 3 rounds of 10 to 30 breaths followed by a brief hold. Talking big, deep breaths, 10 of them, up to 30. 30 is kind of
In
the
and out of
magic.
your mouth.
In and out of your mouth.
And pump
breathing,
your belly.
breathing in more than you breathe out.
Yep.
3 rounds. So
Yep.
30 deep breaths, big old deep breaths, rest, hold. Do it again. Breaths, hold. Do it again. Breaths, hold. You're done.
Yep.
Okay. Even better if you can do this outside
In the sun.
in the sun.
Yep.
Because you want to get sun. Because
Sunlight.
you need vitamin D on the skin. Earlier the better. If you can do this in the morning hours before the sun comes up or as the sun comes up, that's best because your chemistry system is designed to promote cortisol production early in the morning, especially when you view sunlight.
Sunlight. I was gonna say the sun helps release that cortisol.
Does.
Yeah, a lot.
Does.
Yeah, that's where it hits the most.
Helps
So,
cortisol, helps noradrenaline production, helps with good chemicals, the nice chemicals.
The nice chemicals.
You want it nice.
Yes.
And then,
My favorite, cold.
yes.
Well, we're fortunate. We have a cold plunge. Thanks, Avante Cool. We get in the plunge right after our breath work. Go straight into the cold plunge. And if you don't have a cold plunge, shower. And get in your shower and then end it with cold. It really is a game changer.
How long?
2 minutes. You just need 2 minutes a day to add up to 11 minutes total for the week. Matt will do 5 minutes because he's the ice man. And but big game changer in my mental game. Like I've gained so much that's I feel like with my anxiety, that was the biggest change of all with my anxiety. And that because it changed my mental game of how I talk to myself. Because you get in that water, nobody wants to get in the cold water. You don't
Sucks.
want to get in it. The whole point of putting yourself in this eustress is so that you can gain something from it. Just like when we go to the gym. Like, do you really want to go to the gym? I know some people do, but we're going to the gym and like we're putting our body in this stress, and the cold plunge is the same thing.
Yeah. Well,
And it's 2 minutes instead of an hour.
yeah. And the reason, so people can understand, like, I don't do 5 minutes because, like, oh, I want to make it harder. No.
Yeah, no.
You build up a tolerance
Yeah.
over time, and you have to increase the stimulus to get the same effects. And I found that for me, 5 minutes at about 45 degrees is perfect. I love that. And I get
45
out
degrees.
and it's cold and I shiver. I found that I start to shiver around the 4.5 minute mark. And I want to get to that shiver because that shiver is really healthy for the body.
Yeah, activate the brown fat. Yeah.
Activates brown fat. There's this massive dump of a cold shock protein, which is really valuable. And then there can also be an adrenal dump as well, as you get some adrenaline. And then you, after the cold, to warm up, you move.
Yep.
You can go in the sun and move. You can go downstairs in your freaking basement and move. You can go to the gym and move. You
Correct.
move. Minimum of 30 minutes. Just move. I don't care what you do.
Yep.
Move. This isn't go lift weights. This isn't, go run a mile. It's go lift weights, go run a mile. It's whatever you want.
Yeah, it can be anything.
Right?
Yeah.
The-
Go on a walk.
The
Like,
recent prescription that I heard for general physical health that comes from Dr. Peter Attia. Additionally, I've heard Andrew Huberman kind of repeat the same thing, is 3 days a week of weights, 2 days a week of cardio, 1 day a week of play, like actual play exercise.
Physical play.
Physical
yeah.
play, and then 1 day a week of rest. That's your 7-day week. If you do that, seems to be a really valuable recipe for overall health and longevity. And Peter Attia is a longevity expert. He's just absolutely brilliant, and that's his method that he uses, and Huberman does too. I think Brack has even talked about
Yeah.
it. There's
Yeah,
a lot of the big social media guru dudes when it comes to this are doing that model, and I really like that a lot. So I've tried to incorporate that myself. I suggest that to the clients as well, and they seem to really like that because it's doable. And then you're done,
Yeah, you've done a great job at that.
and that's your morning routine.
Yep.
Unless you really want to up your game, and you're now gonna incorporate some supplements.
Oh yeah.
Because supplementation is really valuable because your body needs micronutrients, not just macronutrients, not just fat and freaking carbs and protein, right? You got to get the micronutrients too. That's why vegetables are so important. So I suggest to people a greens drink, spirulina, something like that. Spirulina is very, very valuable. You can look this up. Right? If you come to the event, we're going to give away some spirulina tablets for people because I really, really love this. Additionally, I recommend to people that they check out and do their own research on any of this stuff, right? We're not giving advice on supplements. This is just a recommendation. Do your own research, yada, yada, yada. You get the freaking spiel, right? I'm not giving advice to anybody. I'm just saying, hey, try this. It might work for you. Look, it's worked for other people. Do your own research. This is not a prescription. But spirulina has worked for a lot of people and is great at producing energy. Additionally, lion's mane mushroom supplements in the morning have been game changer. There's other functional mushrooms that are really valuable that seem to work. Finally, vitamin D.
Yep.
Clutch. About 5,000 IU to 10,000 IU of vitamin D a day is highly recommended by health experts all over the place.
Yeah. We're all
Speaking of
deficient
COVID,
it. Yeah. Yes.
one of the common factors of people who ended up dying from COVID, go ahead and look this up, is they were vitamin D deficient.
Yep.
That's when I first I've been taking vitamin D for a long time, but I didn't realize how valuable it was then.
Yeah.
And then all this research about vitamin D came out and it was really valuable. So that's the morning supplement.
Yep.
Okay. Now in the evening, you need about 15 to 30 minutes before you go to bed, and you're going to do the same thing every single night. You want your room to be very dark. You We want it to be cold, somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 67 degrees. The supplements that are recommended to take in the evening are magnesium bisglycinate or magnesium threonate, apigenin, and L-theanine. Again, if you come to the event, you're going to learn more about this. You come see me speak. I talk about this every single time I speak.
And then you just kind of have like your own little routine.
And
This is where it's very,
is very individualized,
individualized. And this is what I love.
You
Yeah.
need 15 minutes minimum of you time. I like to take a shower every night before I go to bed. And after I get out of the shower, I do my stretching. I do some light breath work, like just the most gentle relaxation. And I set my mind and I prepare myself for sleep. And as I'm going to sleep, I, in my mind, go back to my day and I run through my entire day. And I learned this from a sleep expert. This is something that helps people fall asleep really easily. You go back to the start of your day and you walk through the day in your mind. And according to sleep experts, it's impossible to get to bedtime running through the day in your mind without falling asleep. And I've challenged so many people to try that and they can't. What's challenging about it is your brain starts to drift off, right? And you get distracted and it's hard
You
to
have
come back.
Yeah.
But if you can discipline your mind to do that routine, it will help you sleep very, very quickly. Other things that help in the evening, you're big on journaling.
Yeah. I do my journaling. I don't do like I do my face wash and my brush my teeth and my, all the girl stuff at the same time too, every night. I mean, not basically the same time, but it's the same routine every time. So my brain knows like, okay, we're shutting down. Brendy's getting ready to shut down. She's going to wash her face, brush her teeth, do all her lotions and stuff, and then go journal. And we're going to get ready to like close up shop. And I can feel my body like starting to rest rather than be alert. It feels more like it's coming down and it's getting heavier. And
that's because cortisol is sloughing off.
Yeah.
Acetylcholine is starting to build up. Adenosine is starting to build up. Melatonin is starting to build up in your body. But those chemicals, those sleepy chemicals, cannot produce in sufficient amounts if we're not sloughing off the cortisol and the adrenaline of the day.
Yeah.
That's why this is so important.
That's why the routine is so important.
Yes.
Yeah. And then
to level those chemicals out.
Yeah. And then I do routine like with my hair. I brush it so many times and put on like my bedtime cap and stuff like that. But I journal and then I do a gratitude. Like when I go through my day, I do a gratitude as I'm coming down and the things that I was grateful for that day and stuff like that. And that always helps me end the day positively.
The key is to have something that you do every single night, no matter where you are, no matter what's going on. It's the same 15 minutes. It will help your body rest so much.
Yep.
So those are elements of discipline that are valuable, but also regular discipline of the mind, discipline of behavior, discipline of the tongue, very valuable kind of principles. They're Stoic virtues. And then finally, the last virtue of Stoicism that I've incorporated into the Finding Strength method that I think is extremely valuable. In Stoicism, they call it courage. In the Finding Strength method, I call it vulnerability. Because if you do research courage, you begin to understand that courage and vulnerability are inseparable.
Yeah.
You can't have one without the other.
Yep.
And I like vulnerability, not better than courage, but I like saying the word vulnerability because there's a stigma around the idea of vulnerability, that it's weak. If I become vulnerable, that means that there's something weak about me. But it couldn't be further from the truth. The truth is, if you are a vulnerable person, you are a courageous person. Any act of vulnerability that you've ever seen is an act of courage. And
vice versa.
And so vulnerability becomes, well, what is that? What is this method asking of me? What does it mean to be vulnerable? What does it mean to be courageous? And how do these virtues and principles show up in my daily life? And what I have found is that vulnerability is the predecessor to connection. And the vast majority of people who I interact with who are unwell mentally or physically or spiritually the common denominator amongst all of them is that they are extremely lonely
Yeah.
and have a strong aversion to vulnerability. And encouraging vulnerability, promoting it, demanding it of people sometimes has produced incredible results, because the antidote to my ill health is always and will always be connection. And in order for me to bridge the gap between ill health, disconnection, loneliness, isolation, and connection is always vulnerability. It's always courage. And you have to be courageous. You have to step out of your comfort zone. You got to do these hard things. And it starts with your little morning routine and your evening routine and sleeping better and leveling out those chemicals. But then it starts with having a big why, man. Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because of my family. And it comes all the way back to that foundational principle of we is greater than me. And I do vulnerability because I want to make the we better. And that kind of rounds out the method. Do you want to add anything to the vulnerability piece? Because that's such a important part.
Yeah, what I was going to say is how you said to make the we, grow and get better. Like, that's exactly what it did. Like, you started off doing all this and I saw what you were doing and I could see that it was creating this positive change, and I got the energy of that and I was like, I want to do that. I want to change.
It's contagious.
Yeah, it was very contagious, and I feel like there's a powerful thing to that. And that helped me change it into the we. And it's like, okay, well, if I do this, maybe someone else will want to do this. And it makes it more about the we instead of this individual thing where it's like, well, what do I want for myself? And instead of this selfish thing. And I know I used to be one of those ones who was like, comfort, give me comfort, all the comfort. But I will say, like, I challenge you guys, like, be vulnerable, do something courageous, because it is a game changer in everyone's life, not just yours, but the person next to you, or the person you're being courageous with or vulnerable with. I just challenge you to get yourself out of your comfort zone, do something hard, and just experiment. Like, that's what we're huge on. We experiment. There's things that we've tried that we're like, this doesn't work. Yeah, that doesn't work. But I just challenge you to do an experiment and try something that is out of your comfort zone and see what happens, and journal it, write it down. And then you can go back and look at it. Because we're humans, we forget. And then you can reflect back on that and be like, is this something I want to try again? And go from there.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
I hope this episode was helpful, you guys. If you have any questions on it, you want to learn more about the Finding Strength method, hit us up.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to.
Come to the event, July 27th, 2024, 9 a.m. in Lehigh. You can go on Eventbrite and just look up Finding Strength or 1090 will pop up. And it's 50% off already right there when you check out. Come check us out. Come see Mason's story. Come learn about more of the Finding Strength method. I promise you this workshop will hopefully create something in you where you want to create something. And I just know the Finding Strength method has helped me and changed my life. And hopefully it's helped. I know it's helped some of our viewers. We've had some great people reach out, and we've even had people volunteer or not volunteer. We've had people donate money to this event already who can't make it, but they are believers of this method and what Matt and Mason and I and Ryan are doing. And so come check it out. I think it'll be something that, will help you. Help the we.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Finding Strength podcast is sponsored by Avantacool.
Avantacool.
Avantacool. It's a fun word to say.
It is a fun word to say. What is Avantacool, Matt?
Avantacool sells cold plunges. Avantacool sells infrared saunas. Check out Avantacool at avantacool.com. If you use the code STRENGTH24, you will get a discount of 25% off any Avantacool products. How amazing is that?
That's a good discount. It really is. Yeah.
Do you like our cold plunge?
I love it.
It's nice, huh?
It is really nice.
It's great.
Stays clean.
Stays clean.
Perfect. Whatever temperature I want it to be at, I can set that, and it's great.
Yep. We love it.
Go check 'em out.
Every penny. Check them out. Avantacool.com.